Hello, second graders. Mr. K here, and we are doing another Cinderella study. Even though today we will not be talking about Cinderella. So let's move on. Um, Today's focus is going to be on central messages. So our learning target is I am learning to determine the central message of fables and folktales from diverse cultures. Our success criteria: I am successful when I can use key details to help me find the central message. So today we're learning about the central message. The central message is that one thing the author is trying to teach us. It's the reason why the author wrote the story. This is also called the lesson of the story, or the moral of the story. These all kind of mean the same thing. They're the reason why the author wrote the story. One question you can always ask is, what can I learn from this story? What can I learn from this story? So we're going to use details to help us find the central message. You guys have done a very great job with finding details in our retelling. We did a retell of different Cinderella stories. I think we did a retell of the Billy Goat story. So we're gonna use our skills we learned from the retell to help us find the central message. And the central message is kind of a general message. It's not a specific message. It's not specifically about a character. It is not specifically about the story. It's a very general idea, meaning that it applies to everybody. And we'll go into much more detail later about general versus specific. All right, so key details. Like I said, we are going to use our retelling skills to help us find key details. So just some, you guys remember, right? You have your setting, where the story takes place. You have your characters, who is the story about, and you have your events, what happens in the story. So for today, and finding our central message, we are going to focus only on events. That's right, we're going to focus only on events. Don't worry about the setting. Don't worry about the characters. Like I said, we're trying to make a very general message that applies to everybody. So it does not have to be specifically about the characters in the story. So I'm going to do a short story with you guys. And we're going to go through it step by step on how to find the central message. And then we're going to read Little Red Riding Hood. And you are going to find the central message to that story. The Mouse and the Lion. A mouse woke up the big lion. As the lion was about to eat him, the mouse protested. Please forgive me and let me go, and I may someday help you. The lion agreed to this, although he laughed at the idea that a little mouse could help him. Now one day the lion was caught in a hunter's net, from which he could not free himself. The mouse climbed into the trap and gnawed away the rope with his sharp teeth, thus allowing the lion to escape. The mouse then said, "As you helped me, so I also helped you." So in front of us, we have a story web. We're going to use this web to help us find the central message. The small circles on the outside is going to be where we put our events and details, and the big circle in the center is going to be our central message. So let's think about the events of the story with the mouse and the lion. First event, well, the mouse wakes up a lion, and it's a hungry lion. Second event, well, the mouse begs and the lion lets it go. The mouse did not want to be eaten, so the lion let it go. Third event, the lion gets trapped in a net, and the lion cannot escape. And the final event, the mouse frees the lion. So we have 4 events from the story. Did other things happen? Yes, but we're only going to focus on 4 events. So now we have to figure out, what is our central message? What is the author trying to teach us? What can I learn from this story? Well, one thing that the lion learned was, don't get caught in a net unless you are friends with a mouse. But here's the problem. I said we need a very general message, meaning not very specific. This is very specific to the story. This does not apply to me because I've never been caught in a net and I'm not friends with a mouse. So this message doesn't apply to me. But let's think of something else, something a little bit more general, less specific, less about the story. How about be nice to mice because the mice will be nice to you? Well, I mean, that's a little bit more general. But if I was hanging out with my brother and there are no mice, this doesn't apply to us. I need to be more general. I need to make it so the central message is true for me, for my brother, for you, for your brothers or sisters, or your parents or aunts or uncles or cousins or friends. Something that even if I never read this story, the central message can be applied, meaning that it is true for me. So how about treat others nicely because one day you may need their help? Yeah, I think that works well because this is true for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a lion or a mouse. It doesn't matter if you're a teacher or a second grader. This is true for everyone. This is a lesson. This is a moral. This is a central message that works for everyone. So when I mean general, I mean it works for everybody, not just the characters in the story. So let's move on. Red Riding Hood, Little Red Riding Hood. You may have heard the story already, or maybe this is the first time you're hearing it, but you guys need to listen very carefully. And these are things that I want you to look for. I want you to look for 4 key details or events from the story. Now, are there more than 4 events? Yes, but I only want you to focus on 4. Good ideas? Focus something from the beginning, focus on one from the end, and focus on a couple in the middle. And then I want you to ask yourself this question, and I want you to answer, what can I learn from this story? What can you, as a second grader, learn from this story? Now, I don't care what Little Red Riding Hood can learn. I want to know what you can learn from this story. What's something that you can learn? What's something that your parents can learn? What's something your teacher can learn from this story? So let's go ahead and listen to Red Riding Hood.
And now for a read aloud of Red Riding Hood, retold and illustrated by James Marshall. A long time ago, in a simple cottage beside the deep dark woods, there lived a pretty child called Red Riding Hood. She was kind and considerate, and everybody loved her. One afternoon, Red Riding Hood's mother called to her. Granny isn't feeling up to snuff today, she said. So I've baked her favorite custard as a little surprise. Be a good girl and take it to her, will you? Red Riding Hood was delighted. She loved going to Granny's, even though it meant crossing the deep, dark woods. When the custard had cooled, Red Riding Hood's mother wrapped it up and put it in a basket. Now, whatever you do, she said, go straight to Granny's. Do not tarry. Do not speak to any strangers. Yes, Mama, said Red Riding Hood. Before long, she was in the deepest part of the woods. Ooh, she said, this is scary. Suddenly, a large wolf appeared. Good afternoon, my dear, he said. Care to stop for a little chat? Oh, gracious me, said Red Riding Hood. Mama said not to speak to any strangers. But the wolf had such charming manners. And where are you going, sweet thing? He said. I'm on my way to visit Granny, who lives in the pretty yellow house on the other side of the woods, said Red Riding Hood. She's feeling poorly, and I'm taking her a surprise. You don't say, said the wolf. Just then, he had a delightful idea. No reason why I can't eat them both, he thought. Allow me to escort you, he said. You never know what might be lurking about. You're too kind, said Red Riding Hood. Beyond the forest, they came to a patch of sunflowers. Why not pick a few? Suggested the wolf. Grannies love flowers, you know. But while Red Riding Hood was picking a pretty bouquet, the clever wolf hurried on ahead to Granny's house. Who is it? Called out Granny. It is I, your delicious, darling granddaughter, said the wolf in a high-pitched voice. The door is unlocked, said Granny. Surprise! Cried the wolf. Granny was furious at having her reading interrupted. Get out of here, you horrid thing! She cried. But the wolf gobbled her right up. He didn't even bother to chew. Tasty, he said, patting his belly. So tasty. Just then, he heard footsteps on the garden path. Here comes dessert! And losing no time, he put on Granny's cap and glasses, jumped into bed, and pulled up the covers. Who is it? He called out in his sweetest Granny voice. It is I, your little granddaughter, said Red Riding Hood. The door is unlocked, said the wolf. Red Riding Hood was distressed at seeing her grandmother so changed. Why, Granny, she said, what big eyes you have! The better to see you with, my dear, said the wolf. And Granny, what long arms you have! The better to hug you with, my dear, said the wolf. And Granny, what big teeth you have! The better to eat you with, my dear, cried the wolf. And he gobbled her right up. Oh, I'm so wicked, he said, so wicked. But really, he was enormously pleased with himself, and having enjoyed such a heavy meal, he was soon snoring away. A hunter passing by was alarmed by the frightful racket. That doesn't sound like Granny, he said. And so the brave hunter jumped in the window, killed the sleeping wolf, and cut him open. Out jumped Granny and Red Riding Hood. Oh, we're ever so grateful, said Red Riding Hood. That wicked wolf won't trouble you again, said the hunter. It was so dark in there I couldn't read a word, said Granny. Red Riding Hood promised never, ever to speak to another stranger, charming manners or not. And she never did. The end. That was Red Riding Hood, retold and illustrated by James Marshall. Thanks for watching.
All right. So now that we have read Little Red Riding Hood, I want to see if you guys can come up with events and a central message for this story. So your events can be from any event in the story. For instance, Little Red Riding Hood going to see her grandma, that's an event. Meeting a wolf, picking flowers. The wolf tricking Red Riding Hood. The wolf breaking into grandma's. The wolf eating grandma. The wolf eating Red Riding Hood. The hunter saving them. These are all events that happened. So I need you to come up with 4 events and then a central message. What is something that you can learn? What can I learn from this story? Remember, this is a message, a lesson, so it's very general. So this is not about Little Red Riding Hood. This is about something you can learn. This is about something your friends can learn, your teacher can learn, your parents can learn, something that everyone can learn about. Something in this story that is true for everyone. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.